Hey, I'm Will, and this is the Coleman Mechanical YouTube channel. This right here is a Takeuchi TL250 skid steer that was having fuel issues when the machine would get put under a load, whether it be trying to raise the boom or travel. It would bog out and die, it would smoke, sputter, and then ultimately it would die out. Well, this old girl's definitely doing something crazy. Looks fine there. Sounds like our pump's still running. So this video here, I'm going to show you the steps that I took to troubleshoot it, or at least I think I got all that stuff videoed, because this is actually the end of the video, because this machine's actually getting ready to get shipped back to its owner. Whatever I don't cover, I'll make sure I finish in the very end of the video. Full disclaimer, if you are working on one of these machines, please be safe. If you got a machine to lift the arms up and you've got a cylinder lock, use that. I've used channel iron, stuff like that before. As cylinder locks, use something just so that thing just won't fall and get you. These cabs on these Takeuchis, I do kind of like how these are set up a little bit in one aspect, and I kind of don't like them. They have a spot where you can put a pin in. I've got one over there, just so that the cab doesn't lean forward and get you. It's only gonna go so far as that pin will stop it. So the customer, he dropped it off. He complained that while he was running the machine, he couldn't get any work done. He put the machine under load, whether it be to travel, whether it be to lift, whatever. The machine seemed like it would die out. And where he's working at right now, the particular job, he's on a steep incline and he can't have the machine dying, so he needs somebody to take a look at it. So one of the first things I checked after verifying that it really did have a running issue was filters. So this particular machine has that filter there, which is your, I guess you'd say would be your primary filter, and then there's another one in the back that would be more of a water separator. That filter there was relatively new. What I done, I took that filter, just flipped it upside down over a rag, just to see if there's any major chunks in it. Nothing major, nothing that drawn my attention to anything. The reason that little filter there, that clear filter is there, is I wanted to be able to see if there was any aeration in the fuel system going into the injection pump, because that filter there, that's your last filter before it goes into the injection pump. Excuse me there with the focus. And while the machine was running, you would definitely see air bubbles from time to time, and not just little bitty ones. There would be large bubbles, almost like gulps. So that drew me to let me look at the lines and see exactly what we've got going on, because there was a new fuel pump on this machine. It's just a low pressure click clack pump, and I'll give you a disclaimer. This pump here is just one that I've got, that I've been using for a very long time for just various different things. So I knew that this pump for me is a good pump, and so I checked his lines, and I could see that these lines have been repaired a time or two, just on the job type repairs. There's another one here, just unions. And excuse me, there's a truck going by. Where these lines go in at, I've noticed that the factory lines, which is these right here, has got the braided material around them. A lot of them had splits in them, and as a matter of fact, up there, the filter at the engine, there was a great big split up under the clamp. And to me, I was like, oh man, that's it, where it's drawing air, and that's what's cutting the machine off. Ultimately, no, that was very well may be part of the problem, but not the problem. This right here is the primary, I guess you'd say, the water separator filter. There's an element that goes in here, and it did have a good bit of junk in it, but if I'm gonna be honest, given the age of the machine, there's no telling how often that little filter was getting cleaned. So the sediment that was in here, could be from the whole life of the machine. One of the issues I seen was that this little fitting here, you can move it and you can actually pull it out. You know, with this base off, you can pull this completely out. So to bypass that, to make sure we're not getting air there, I just tied these two lines together. All right, this main line here that goes into the top, this line comes directly from your tank. Particular on this Takeuchi, it runs to the very bottom of the tank, and I'll link a parts breakdown of how the tank's laid out in the video. This line here goes to the extreme bottom of the tank, and there's a sump there that it draws off of. And then it comes through the filter housing here, comes out, it goes into the suction side of the pump, and it goes out pressure side, and then it goes to that other filter up there, which it pushes through, and then it goes into your injection pump. Back to troubleshooting. So he had a pump here, and I ran the machine after, you know, looping these lines together. He had a pump here, and the machine still would die out. And I'm like, what the world is going on? You know, it definitely seemed like the machine was dying out because of fuel starvation versus being a hydraulic issue, say like that the pump is causing the machine to stall out, because that's a completely different issue. If you've been in a machine that's done it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Pretty much when the pump stalls out, it's almost take a manual transmission vehicle and say you put it in gear, but you don't release the clutch at the right time and it just dies out. That's more or less what happens when the hydraulic system, you've got a pump stall issue. Anyways, so I put my pump on. Well, I take that back. I took this line off because this would be the pressure side, and I turned the switch on, which would automatically kick this pump on, or kick the pump on, and the fluid flow, it was pumping fluid, but it just, for the demand that this machine would require when it's under load, it's not enough. I mean, it's enough to keep the machine idling, which it seems to had no problem doing that. It's just under load, it didn't seem to work. So I said, that's just not good fluid flow. Look at that, it's more or less just petering out. Hey, let me put my pump on it and just see if it's a pump issue. Because I mean, you know, full disclaimer, he did say, hey, you know, the pump from Takeuchi is, I think, like $300, but you know, you can get a 5-pack of, you know, pumps off of Amazon for like $100. You know, why not? You know, so I understand, you know, it's a possibility that, you know, it could have been a pump issue. So I put my pump on it. My pump created almost the exact same flow. It was a little bit better, but it wasn't perfect. And if I got videos, I'll put those in here. So I was wondering what the heck is going on. I was like, let me chase the lines all the way up here to the tank. And when you get up here, it's kind of hard to really follow these lines, and to be honest, you guys probably won't be able to see them that well here now, but the tank is kind of like a saddle tank almost. It goes and it turns this way and it comes back here. This line is your main feed line. However, this main feed line actually goes to the return of the tank. The reason I've got it going into the return right now is because the return has a nice straight fluid flow. It's essentially gravity fed at this point. And the machine runs like a sewing machine, like it under load, no issues. I've got the return just running over into this jug here. So that the next thing is like, well, if that's true, what about the sump that's at the bottom of the tank? What's going on there? So let me show you guys what we got going on and what I suspect is happening. Let's see if we can get up under here. All right, so this is the factory sump right here, and it doesn't have a line on it. And you see, it doesn't have a shut off or anything, but you see it's just barely dripping fuel here. What I suspect is that the sump is stopped up and there's trash all around the sump, and it's just enough where it allowed the machine to run, but to idle, but not to actually run at full performance. So I'm gonna drain the fuel out. I'm gonna probably just suck it out of the tank, and we're gonna pull this sump off, and we're gonna see what we've got here. I think I've got the majority of the fuel sucked out of it. This one here on the sump has got 2 Allens. They are, what do I got here? A 5mm. Yeah, 2 5mm Allens. So we're gonna pull these out. Hopefully not make a extremely large mess. So y'all pray for me here. Yeah, that sump's definitely stopped up. I just pulled one bolt out and it's definitely flowing whatever fuel is left in there. So I'm gonna let this baby drain some before I pull that other one out, so I don't make a great big mess. So hopefully this won't take that long. But yeah, definitely gonna do that. Alrighty folks, I got this sump out, and as you can tell, this thing's got algae and all kinds of stuff in there, preventing good fuel flow. All right, folks, let me show you the finished product here. So, got new fuel lines all the way from the tank all the way to the pump, water separator or sediment filter. What I done for him, and I told the gentleman just in case we didn't get the tank clean enough, because I did not go through the full process of pulling the fuel tank out of this machine. It's actually a really in-depth process. You have to pull the hydraulic pumps out so you've got enough room to get the tank out, and it's a little bit of a job. So I just tried to flush the tank as much as I could, and just drain it. So anyways, I told him to be on the safe side. We put just a little clear inline filter here, just a cheap one we can throw away. That'll pick up the majority of the sediment. Then there's a sediment filter in here as well. And again, all this pulls from the tank. Then you've got your pump here. And he told me that he just uses the cheap click-clack pumps, you can buy off Amazon. Was it 15 bucks a piece or something like that? So with that being said, the factory plug that he had here actually had got destroyed. I guess it got shut in the door here. So seeing that I knew he was going to just use these cheaper style click-clack pumps, and I think the majority of them tend to have like this generic style plug with the little male spades. What I'd done, I had some female spades that I just hooked into the crimped onto the wires he had there. So when he switches one out, all he's gonna do is just unplug, plug up, and be good to go. And then it doesn't really matter what style plug he's got here. But for the time being, that'll work. Anyways, like I said, got new hoses here. And then the ones actually up here under the tank, you really won't be able to see anyways, but they are there. Again, the feed off the tank you won't be able to see because that's actually under the tank. But this here is your return. It comes off, it's a 90 off the tank here. Anyways, the lines run down there and on up through there and into the injection pump. This machine runs like a dream now. You put it under a load, it runs good. It doesn't bog down, it doesn't sputter, spit, none of that crazy stuff like that. I hope that you find this video useful for you. Again, this works with any low pressure fuel system. That I specifically know low pressure fuel systems will have this issue or tend to have this issue.